That has always been true of me. It's always been a gift and a strength of mine that people just feel relaxed with me, that they'll share things that maybe they won't share with other people. That's me utilizing my primal gift of safety in people's lives. Another way to say this is the thing that you need most is the thing that you most want to give away. So if you, Rusty, with a Q6 need worth and value, that is the thing that you most want to give away to other people.
Wow. Wow, that's really profound. Okay. I'm not going to cry. We're going to go to the next one, even though I feel safe with you.
I would love, listen, I get, and it's a revelation, right? Because it's, I think this is the story of God.
Hey, welcome to Simple Faith. Our goal is to make life a bit more simple by simplifying your faith. It can get overwhelming at times. And I'm always excited to read a book that simplifies anything. And I came across this book by a guy I've read his other stuff and I've heard a lot about him. We have a lot of friends that know us, but we haven't really met each other. And so this guy, his name is Mike Foster, wrote a book called 7 Primal Questions. That all of us have one of them we're trying to answer in our lives and have other people answer for us. I read this book and it was profound. And so I thought, I got to get him on the podcast. So I'm thankful to our mutual friend, Judd Wilhite, for making the connection. And Mike was so kind as to sit down with us and walk us through the 7 primal questions that you are wrestling with and the people in your life are wrestling with as well. One of them is yours. One of them is theirs. How can you coexist? We're going to get into all of that in my conversation with the author of 7 Primal Questions, Mike Foster. Mike Foster, thank you for being a part of the show. As we were talking before we hit record, we know about 1,000 people collectively together that know each other, but we've never really physically met. So this is a treat for me to actually see you face to face.
It's been a long time coming, Steve. Yeah. So I'm glad that we're getting to do this today.
Hey, for our listeners that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself and the things you've been up to and some of the books you've written. And it's just great stuff.
Yeah. So I like to think of myself that I'm in the life transformation business, and I've been doing this kind of work for 20 years, helping individuals, leaders, couples just experience everything that God has for their life and living a thriving life, a fulfilling life, working through challenges. And so I love getting to do what I do, kind of in a practical way. I'm an executive coach. I work with leaders every single day on their development and helping them go to the next level, really understanding their core drivers and some of the things that might either hold them back or launch them forward, and having some very important conversations around those things. And I write books. My latest book is the 7 Primal Questions, which is a framework that I've been researching and putting together for the last 7 years. I use it in my coaching and counseling with people. And then I also, kind of the third part of my work is training other counselors and therapists and coaches and pastors and leaders on how to use the 7 primal questions in their context to help others. I'm a big believer in helping the people who are helping others. And that's a big part of my mission in life.
Now, was your first book People of the Second Chance, or am I getting that backwards or confused? Tell me about some of your other works as well.
Yeah. So, I've done kind of a combination of workbooks and traditional books. So I would say People of the Second Chance was kind of my first official book, which was super exciting, but I've done some other projects. One was called Freeway, which was a kind of a small group curriculum that a lot of churches and people used around the country to talk about really, it was kind of a friendly way to talk about the 12-step. And so I've always been let's resource people in topics that they care about, and hopefully in a way that they'll actually read the content. So I've actually written a lot of short books. Even my latest book, like 7 Primal Questions, is probably half the length of a normal book, but mostly it's not that I ran out of ideas or words. It's just like, I actually want you to read it and finish it. So we keep it short.
Man, Mike, I feel your pain. I wrote a couple books, and they all the publishers wanted to be 40,000 words, and the chapters are all like 10 pages. I'm like, man, I don't even know if I'd read this. So I started writing devotionals, 2 pages, and I found that when I would tell our people, hey guys, I wrote this with you in mind, each chapter is 2 pages, they started selling. People started reading it, which just helps out immensely.
I think that's your goal, my goal is like, we really want to help people. So let's build tools and build content or create things that people will actually want to consume, versus like, oh my gosh, I got to read 60,000 words to I think we got to keep it easier for people to engage in tools and growth.
Well, I don't think Twitter and TikTok have helped us any. People are used to the sound bites, so they can move on. Okay, I want to dive into this book because I didn't even know that you'd written this book. And a guy that I coach told me about it. And I said, oh, I know of Mike Foster. And I thought, man, this is a brilliant idea. The 7 Primal Questions. I want you to tell us a little bit about you said it took you 7 years to write. What was your process like? Were there things that you kept hearing people say and you thought, there's something there, which led you to kind of develop this? And just walk us through why you wrote the book. And then I want to get into what the book is.
Yeah. So one of the things that I've been doing this type of work for 20 years now, which is crazy to think about, that I'm that old to be doing this work for 20 plus years. But one of the things that's true about my work and really my approach is that I really do believe in the power of simplicity in helping people create transformation. Because I think, to our point, we were talking about long books and lots of words. Really, my strong belief on this is we have made transformation way too hard. It's too complex. There's too many layers to it. And so what happens is we get loaded up with all this stuff that we're supposed to do or understand, or all these different I understand my emotions, but understand my thoughts, and understand other people's emotions, and understand my trauma, and understand
right.
It's like all of a sudden it's like too much. I'm checking out. I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing.
Right.
And so for me in the work, it's always been about trying to get to the core root of something. And I believe if we can live and have conversations around the roots of something, then we really, number one, it's a very simple and straightforward conversation, but it's also a very empowering conversation. So in the work of building the 7 Primal Questions, it really was birthed from a desire to how simple can I make this to help people understand what's going on inside of their internal world, help them understand their trauma better, help them understand their core drivers better, to immediately launch them into action, massive action, change. Because that's what we want. It's not that we want awareness; we actually want change in our lives. So, so just kept refining it. It went from I 6,000 hours of one-on-one interviews. We're 100,000 assessments.
Wow.
22 group labs. Lots of research to kind of boil it all down into the primal question. And the primal question in short is a question that we carry, that we ask in our everyday lives, that represents a core need that we have had our entire life. This question gets imprinted in our early childhood. We subconsciously ask this question over and over again in our relationships, in our friendships, in our marriage, in our leadership, and we ask it to God. And we are constantly asking this question. And this question that is tied to a core primal need And basically when that question gets answered with a yes, or another way to say that is when that core need is met, we are our best selves. But when that question gets answered with a no, that primal question gets answered with a no or a maybe, we then go into what I call the scramble. And the scramble is all the things that we try to do to force the answer back to a yes. Another way to say that is all the coping mechanisms, all the kid logic, all the unhelpful strategies that we have for life to try to meet our core need. And that's the premise of the book, is understanding not our emotions, not trying to figure out our behaviors, not understanding our story, but going, what is the question, or what is the primal need that is driving our life? And once we see that, everything falls into place. Everything makes sense. We understand why we do what we do. We understand our triggers. We understand our coping mechanisms. We understand our gift and our strength that flows from that need. And so it just opens up this huge understanding and clarity about you as an individual.
Okay. So there's going to be two types of people listening to this. One that's thinking, oh goodness, not another test to figure out who I am. And the others are like myself are thinking, oh good, another test, because we love taking these things because it constantly helps define, the mess that we are. So I think the first one I ever took was Myers-Briggs. And then you get into, there's the color code, and there's the DISC assessment. The latest was Enneagram. How does this, kind of play into that, or how does it differentiate? Walk me through kind of the compare and contrast.
Yeah, so I'm a big believer in assessments and the value of assessments. I'm a big fan of a lot of the assessments that you have mentioned. I think and honestly, most assessments are helping us try to understand similar things about ourselves. Okay, there's just different ways to do it. I think what is a distinctive in terms of the primal question is in its simplicity. That really what I'm not asking, I'm giving colors or 4 different letters or multiple variables of something. It's just like one question. And once you know that question, it's a very simple question, and there isn't fancy words around that question. It's just like, here's the question. And once you understand that question, you can carry the question. One of the things that's really exciting about the primal question, why I think it's kind of been spreading like wildfire out there over the past couple of years, is that people are actually sharing it with somebody else.
Right.
Okay? And to me, that's I'm not like tooting my own horn here, but it does say something about the differentiation between primal question and maybe some of the other assessments, is that you could actually, without technology, without the book, without, this big 50 question assessment thing, you could sit down and you could have a conversation with somebody about this and have a really robust understanding of it pretty quickly. And that's what I think that's accelerating the growth. I think it's accelerating the idea because it's simple. Enneagram, I love the Enneagram, but I still don't understand it in all its
and if you act like you do, somebody will tell you, well, there's a variation to that. There's another,
that's right.
There's another layer that you could have. Oh, that's so good. Because you're right. So many of those tests, I always had to, look up what that meant or explain it to somebody else. Here's what a phlegmatic means, here's what a sanguine is. And then we reduce it to animals, well, you're just an otter, or, you're a lion. Okay, let's jump into this, because I know our listeners are wondering, all right, what are the 7 questions? Yes. So let's just start with number 1. Let's walk it through. What's the first primal question?
First primal question is, am I safe?
Okay.
And this is just the need for both physical and emotional safety in your life. And the imprint here, and when I talk about imprint, kind of that early childhood imprint, the experiences that you had in your early childhood, that's what imprints a primal question upon you. So the imprint for this question looks like perhaps you grew up in a home that had a lot of neglect, perhaps abuse, just a lot of chaos. There wasn't safety in your family. And so what happens is that need for safety goes unmet. And then we as a child figure out, okay, we're going to meet our own need. Okay. And that's where we use these, what I call kid logic strategies to try to meet that need. Okay. As a kid, we figure out how to do that. The problem is we then take those same strategies into our adult lives to try to meet that same need. And we're using the strategies of a 8-year-old kid instead of a grown adult. And so that's where we get in trouble. So this is actually my primal question. And this question got imprinted because I experienced abuse from a family friend in my early childhood. So safety becomes the primary driver of my life and the thing that's most important to me. And how does that show up? Like, what does my scramble look like? How do I try to force a yes to that question of, am I safe? Control, hypervigilance. I believe that if I can just know everything and predict everything, then I will be safe. Now you can see, Rusty, like the scramble stuff it can really get us into a lot of trouble, because basically in my scramble, I'm living on high alert all the time. Okay. And so that comes with a real high cost. So the goal here, if I could write a prescription to our primal question, is not to continue to ask the question, am I safe? And then using, whether I get a yes or no. Again, if I get a yes from somebody, great, that feels good. My need is met. But if I'm getting a no or a maybe, then I'm using the scramble to try to force it back to a yes. There's a lot of cost to that. And so what we want to do, the growth opportunity here for us, is to move from the primal question, into what I call the primal truth. I talk about this in the book, where we are no longer asking a question, we're living in a statement. So the growth for Mike Foster in this moment is to show up every day in his life, in his work, in his relationships, in his finances, knowing that he is safe. I am safe. See, the thing that we forget, and I actually have to remind myself, this is a practice that I do in my own life, Rusty, is, okay, when I am not feeling safe, okay, and there's lots of different things in our world that would make me feel unsafe, okay? That's just a reality. Like, the world is not set up for Mike Foster's safety, okay? So there's a lot of inputs that would say, okay, yeah, that could be, I could get a no there or a maybe here to that question of, am I safe? And so I really need to lead myself well in that. And one of the ways I lead myself well is I actually have to remind myself of the facts. See, part of us finding transformation in our lives is living in truth. See, when I don't think I'm safe, the picture that I have in my head is of an 8-year-old kid. That's the version of myself that I see. I think, and that kid wasn't safe, okay? Because he was little. He couldn't push back. He didn't have resource. But I'm 6'4", 225 pounds today. I can protect myself, right? I have resource to protect myself. I have friends and family who have my back. I have God in my life, who is my rock and my refuge. Okay, so part of the shift that we're making from these perhaps traumatic or where these needs were not met in our life, we're moving into this new place of healthy adulting. It's what I call self-leadership. The need is real. Mike Foster's need for safety is not changing. It's just my relationship to leading myself in that need is changing, versus using a kid logic to feel safe. I'm now using the primal truth and living in truth to feel safe.
That's good. That's good. More of adult logic.
Exactly.
Okay. Second question.
Am I secure? And this is really just the need for financial security and to have enough resource. Now, this is different than am I safe?
Right.
But they're sort of, I'd say, like brother, sister. But this is really about, perhaps the imprint here, Rusty, is you grew up in a home that didn't have a lot of resource. Maybe mom and dad fought about fought about bills all the time. Dad lost his job several times. There's just this financial pressure in your home. And so the narrative or the things that were going on in your ecosystem of your family was just there's a lot of financial insecurity. And so what that does is, how does that express itself today? Typically, if this is your primal question, you're 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 checking your bank accounts 3 times a day. You're really hung up on making sure that you have enough. Perhaps you're very frugal and don't like to spend money, or you're always stressed about, do you have enough? And so again, living in the truth of that is we have to move from these kid logics of like, okay, maybe I hoard, or I'm not generous, or I don't spend any money on vacation, or I got to make sure that I have enough money. And that's our approach. And that's really just a control mechanism to force a yes to your question, am I secure?
Yeah.
For these folks, we really want to help. The transformational moment is, number one, understanding that God himself is the owner of all things and is nothing but a God of abundance. Okay. He's not looking to take things from you. Okay. Let me hurt you over here. Let me, take 10,000 out of this account. Like, no, he owns everything and wants to bless you. Okay. There's more than enough. And that's just to get am I secure person onto that concept of that there is more than enough out there for you, okay, is just a huge mind shift. And so really what we want to do is just, again, live in that primal truth. I am secure.
Okay. Second or third one.
Third question, am I loved?
Yeah.
This is the need to feel seen, heard, and known. This isn't necessarily about like Valentine's Day and that kind of love. It's really just to feel nurtured, to feel seen. This is about a strong relational connection. This is my wife's primal question, and kind of her early childhood imprint looked like this. She was the fourth kid. When she came along, her parents, went back to work. And she was a latchkey kid. Her mom, who's my mother-in-law, amazing woman, but she does have a tendency not to listen very much and very well, and talks over people. And my wife experienced a lot of that. And so in these experiences that my wife, Jennifer, was having, she just kind of had this simple question, am I loved? And so there was, and the thing here with this particular question is it probably like, it's indifference. When you feel indifference from people, when you feel like I can take it or leave it, that's where this question starts to rumble. Okay. That feels like a no or a maybe. And then you go into your scramble. And sometimes the scramble with this question is like, they become the most caring people in the world. They become very codependent. They're emotionally managing everybody to make sure everybody else is okay. Right. But really, it's a tactic and a strategy. If I love you, perhaps maybe you will love me.
Right.
Okay? And that's the kid logic. Okay. That I have to do something in order to get loved. Okay. But healthy adult thinking, adult wisdom says, no, I am loved as I am. Yeah, that's God's perspective of me. I am worthy of love. I don't have to like jump through hoops or make sure, I like overgive and over responsibility, making sure like all this, I have to be the most nice person in the world in order to get loved. Yeah. But that's the kid logic stuff that really undermines our life.
I'm curious, as we're walking through this, is there one that, because I'm sure the population doesn't break down into equal percentages for all 7 of these. Is there one that's higher? Is it, because I would assume this is the highest one.
So I would say there's 3 very high ones that kind of all compete for the top spot: safety, love, and then question number 6, am I good enough? Which is around value and performance. Okay. And so those would be, but love is a very high one, shows up a lot in women. Yeah. But it's not exclusive to women. There's a lot. In fact, I was just on a coaching call right before this. Very successful entrepreneur. His primal question is, am I loved?
I wonder if as the generations get older, if, I could see a lot of Gen Xers asking, am I safe and am I loved? Because of just kind of what was the meme I saw the other day, Gen X raised on hose water and neglect. That was just kind of how we lived. But I wonder as Gen Y rolls up, just kind of the overprotective, hovering helicopter parent. I wonder if those questions will shift a little bit. Have you seen that based upon the age of the individual?
That I haven't quite seen the shifts yet, but there's definitely correlation, because the thesis of the framework is early childhood experiences shape who we become,
right,
and how we see the world. So I'll give you a couple examples, like COVID. I think we're going to see a particular spike in some questions because of COVID and that experience. Anytime there's these significant moments in our lives, they are what is imprinting on us, and that is the where the question comes from. And so, yes, all of it is about the power of the family of origin, the power of the home system that we grew up in, the power of the societal experiences that are going on. In fact, I find a lot of boomers, ones and twos. Am I safe and am I secure?
Yeah.
Which makes sense, because of like our older generation. There was some financial, like my dad grew up dirt poor, didn't have shoes, kind of came out of the end of the Depression and the war, World War II, like all this sort of stuff. And his primal question is, am I secure?
Yeah.
That makes perfect sense based on his, both the things that are going on in society, but also the realities of his home.
So true. Okay. I got us off kilter there. All right. Number 4.
Am I wanted? And this is really just the need to feel pursued and connected. Again, a brother, sister to am I loved, but a distinctive here. And really the distinctive here is where indifference might send you into your scramble with the am I loved question. Rejection is going to send you into your scramble with the am I wanted question. It's the thing that most hits you in terms of a no to that need is really the idea of being left out, to be not included. Okay. And so here's the thing where it gets really fun is we start thinking about not only my question, but other people's questions, Rusty. I can start like upgrading my relationship with you if I know your primal question, because as a friend, as a person, as maybe a teammate, whatever the relationship is, as a spouse, if I get fully focused on your primal question and how I might answer that with a yes, we're going to have a really successful relationship. But the vice versa is true also. If I do a poor job at answering your primal question with a yes, or if I'm accidentally or unintentionally doing your primal question with a no or a maybe, we're going to have a very difficult relationship. In fact, I say that you actually can't be in a sustainable relationship with somebody who continually answers your primal question with a no. You can't work for a boss that continues to do that. You can't stay in a marriage that continues to do that. You can't have a friend who continually does that. So in the positive, if I understand Rusty's primal question, I can start attuning to that question, looking for ways to answer that with a yes. So let's just say, and we should talk about your primal question. We'll get to it in a moment. But let's just say your primal question was, am I wanted? If that's your primal question, guess what I'm going to do? I'm going to make sure you're invited to everything. All right. I'm going to make sure that I do my best. And like if the team's going out for lunch, a few of the guys are going to go get sandwiches at the local Subway, and you're sitting in the office, I'm going to invite you in. Okay. Because I know that's important to you. It's not important to me, by the way, because my primal question is, am I safe? I don't care if I get invited, but the am I wanted does. And so it's this new way of seeing relationships,
right,
to where we can really be much more effective with each other and really, really kind of create this new way of being.
That's great. Okay. Number 5.
Am I successful? Okay. This is the need to win or achieve. These are, I believe, they didn't do the test, but I believe like these are Michael Jordans, these are Serena Williams, or Tiger Woods, where success is the driver of your life. That is what you're chasing. You're chasing a yes to that question. Am I successful? And you'll do whatever it takes to make sure you get a yes. An imprint. Here's a imprint. Perhaps you grew up in a very competitive family where mom and dad sort of kept score, and there was like grades or sports, or maybe there was a lot of sibling rivalry happening, and it was about winning. Okay, that's the ecosystem that you grew up in.
Yeah, that's that reminds me of a friend of mine whose mom. This is just amazing parenting. Mom lined her kids up, him being one of the kids, in order of smartest to dumbest, is what she said. Just to let him know, okay, you're going to be the doctor and you're going to have to be a housewife, was kind of the way she labeled it, just to, put proper expectations on her kids. I could see that being a very large trigger for somebody growing up.
Oh my, yes.
As a way of imprinting.
That's such a, perfect story of, it doesn't take like all this sort of huge traumatic event stuff in our lives to imprint a question. Sometimes it's just a singular event. Like I could see that as a singular event that absolutely imprints something on you, a belief that you have about yourself, an identity that you now see yourself through. And that's why, again, from a parenting standpoint, I have a lot of parents go, Mike, how do I stop my kid from being imprinted with a primal question? Okay. Well, here's what I'd say. Good parenting is figuring out all kinds of ways to answer yes to all 7 questions. Okay. That's good parenting. All right. Good parenting is paying attention to the question that your child is asking. Okay. A lot of times kids will naturally present the need that they have. And if parents lean into that, pay attention to that, are listening for that, they can affirm that need versus ignoring that need or denying that need, or, do a lot of different things that when kids present their needs. And so good parenting is really making sure that we aren't creating these moments of like giving people a big traumatic no to a core need that they might have in their life. And so
true.
Yeah, but that's a great example of how the imprint happens. I had actually a client that I work with. He described his relationship with his dad, and how he remembers very distinctly his primal question is, am I successful? He remembers very distinctly playing Little League Baseball. And when my client pitched and won, and the team won, dad would be super talkative in the car on the ride home. And then he also shared that whenever he would pitch and the team would lose, dad would be quiet on the ride home in the car. And so the messaging, right? In order for me to have dad's approval, to have dad be talkative, to have a relationship with dad, is for me to win. Okay.
Right.
Now, as adults, we look at that like, there's more to it than that. But as a kid, that makes perfect sense. Right. And so we lock in the kid logic. I got to win in order to get approval. And we go with that until we finally investigate the question that's running our life and go, is that really true?
And dad's probably thinking, well, at least I'm not yelling at him all the way home. Right. I'm doing the right thing.
Yeah. And fundamentally, that's where parents need to show themselves a little bit of grace.
Yeah.
Dad's not necessarily doing anything wrong.
Right.
Okay. He's not doing anything hurtful or harmful. it's just a child trying to understand the world and trying to understand what success means, what love means, what safety means, how all this stuff works. And that child coming to a conclusion about what success means based on that ride home with dad.
Yeah. So good. Okay. This one's mine. Let's do it.
Yes. Okay. So question number 6, primal question number 6 is, am I good enough?
Uh-huh.
And really, this is just the need to feel valued and affirmed for who you are. This is a lot of times, and I don't know if this is your experience, Rusty, but a lot of times the early childhood imprint would be there was a lot of pressure to perform, a lot of pressure to do things right. Sometimes that would, a parent might be overly critical of your clothes or your friends, or it's like, hey, we got to make sure we do things, hold up the family name. Maybe there's perfectionism kind of in the system. And so there's this compelling pressure in your childhood to be good enough, okay, to be worthy. And this is a really difficult question because there's so many things and so many exposures that we have in our society, relationships, and our work, where that question can often get a no or a maybe.
Right.
And so this is where we have to live in that primal truth and invite ourselves into this new self-leadership around our core need, where we don't live from the question, am I good enough? We live from the statement, the primal truth, I am good enough. And we show up to this. Now, one of the beautiful things that comes from this question, and this is a big part of the book that I talk about called The Primal Gift, is that these people have this incredible ability to create value in everything that they do. And here's how the primal gift concept works is what the research shows is that we take our question and we put it over everybody else. Okay. And we assume that they are asking the exact same question that we're asking. Okay. And so we orient ourselves to that question, and we have actually become experts in answering that question with a yes. So I'll give you an example. So for me, people tell me their deepest, darkest secrets, Rusty, after knowing me for a few minutes. Okay. And I think why they do that is because I'm putting my primal question over them of safety. And I am attuning to them and helping them feel very safe and protected. So they open up to me really quickly. That has always been true of me. It's always been a gift and a strength of mine that people just feel relaxed with me, that they'll share things that maybe they won't share with other people. That's me utilizing my primal gift of safety in people's lives. Another way to say this is the thing that you need most is the thing that you most want to give away. So if you, Rusty, with a Q6 need worth and value, that is the thing that you most want to give away to other people.
Wow. Wow, that's really profound. Okay. I'm not going to cry. We're going to go to the next one, even though I feel safe with you.
I would love, listen, I get, and it's a revelation, right? Because it's, I think this is the story of God.
Yeah.
Of everything that we think is wrong with us, or maybe God was painful in our story or hurtful in our childhood, that God redeems that in the most unbelievable way. And Rusty, I mean, I again, we don't know each other very well, but I feel like I know you because I know all your friends. But let me just ask you, as you think about what you want other people to know and feel and experience, would you say that's true of you, of for them to feel worthy and valued and to affirm them and who they are as people?
Yeah. I mean, that's a lot of it. And it does come back to that. It starts with me wanting to know, am I good enough to do this job, or to be your friend, or to be trusted by you? And let me get that answer by telling you you're good enough to be with me and worthy of my time. And I'm going to try not to forget your name, and I'm going to work really hard to remember your prayer request, and put myself under a lot of pressure to get all that right.
Yes.
Which was great, changing churches, after 20 years at a previous church and then having to learn, thousands of new names. Man, that put it all to the test there. But no, I totally understand what you're saying here. You're reading my mail. That's good.
Yeah. Well, I love that. It's not a little concept, but it's a very clear one. Like, you show that people are good enough by remembering their name.
Mm-hmm.
That is, and I'll just be real honest, like, that's not a strength of mine. That's not a perspective that I have, because I'm thinking about people's safety.
Okay? Yeah.
But you, in this very, very kind and generous act of just like, I want you to know that you matter to me. And the way that I do that is by remembering your name.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's so beautiful. And I think it's so important. I would encourage anybody who's listening to this, whatever your question is, what would it look like for, well, let's say Rusty to step into his primal gift even more, to understand that that is a superpower that he has, that the other questions do not have, by the way. Like, there's a unique superpower that comes with the question, am I good enough? As there is a unique primal question that comes with, am I safe, or am I loved? Am I successful? But how might you deploy that in a stronger, greater, maximized way, knowing that it's such a unique gift and part of you?
That's really good. Wow. Okay. Well, this isn't all about me. Let's move on to the seventh one. Do I have purpose?
And what's interesting on this question in terms of the imprint, the research shows that a lot of people who grew up in faith-based homes have this question, where because there was this, I just call pressure perhaps, or this expectation around this idea of like, God's going to use you in a really powerful way. God's got a great plan for your life. There's sort of this celebration of impact and significance. And so this question really is about the core need for impact, the core need to make a difference in the world. And so a lot of times with this question comes kind of the downside of this question is, if this is your primal question, your core need for significance and purpose, a lot of times you'll struggle with what I call calling angst, where there's this sense of like, I'm not doing enough for God. Mm-hmm. I'm not making a big enough impact. Or a lot of Christians feel this way. It's like, oh, I think I missed the on-ramp to my calling because I think I arrived at the wrong place, and now I'm really frustrated and down on myself because I'm not. And so this is where this all gets jumbled up. And again, a lot of it is kid logic, right? It's some of the messaging and incomplete messaging that we have around purpose and significance and meaning of life. And so what I always like to tell people with this question is, this is your question. Yes, reinvestigate what real purpose is about. And it's not just, if you make the front page of the New York Times, that means that what you're doing is important. Purpose is much more rich and robust than just maybe what might be celebrated on a Sunday morning through a 3-minute video that we show in our services, or accolades. Purpose. I like to say it this way: the person who is digging a well in Uganda and bringing clean water to hundreds of people in that city or town, that is as significant as the mom who's making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for their 5-year-old today. Okay. There is no difference. Okay. There's no difference in God's eyes. There's no difference in my eyes. They are meaningful, significant acts. And there isn't a moment of our lives that there hasn't been a single day of your life that hasn't had purpose and significance and meaning to it.
Wow. Boy, that has been the last, 20 years of, in the Christian world especially, kind of the hierarchy of purpose, calling, jobs, what we celebrate. And sometimes it's the big splash, big platform. And sometimes it's the Mother Teresa's of the world,
Yes.
But the peanut butter and jelly sandwich, driving somebody in a carpool lane, that gets missed. And a lot of Christians have never seen their purpose in that.
Yeah. Yeah. And what would it look like for you to reimagine what purpose actually means and to see the importance of that? I think about the people. There's so many people at your church and even people all around this country and doing all kinds of things that we will never see or know about, but are profound in importance.
Right.
And that's exciting to me when I think about, like, I want to know those people. I want to find those people and just remind them that, hey, forget this calling angst.
Right.
Forget this sort of like pressure that you feel to like get on the evening news or for somebody to pay attention. It's like, this is rad. Okay.
Yeah.
It has been rad from day one. Okay. Do not forget that, and serve in joy and importance and know that this means so much to so many people. And most importantly, to God who sees all of it.
Okay. Let's talk about relationships, specifically marriages, because what happens when two people have the same question? Does that make it easy? Or is it this endless cycle of it's never enough? And then what happens when, is there a combination that's the best, or is there a combination that's the most dangerous?
Yeah, great question. So one of the things that the research shows is, especially in marriage, but this will be true of all relationships, but specifically in marriage, is that the closer your number is to somebody else's number, the easier the relationship's going to be. Okay. So a 1 and a 7, let's say they're married to each other. In fact, I have a pastor friend in New York who he's a 7, his wife's a 1. 7, do I have purpose? 1, am I safe? Very different core needs. Okay. And you can see how, and he told me very directly, he said, this is the thing that we are always managing in our marriage. She wants to stay home and be safe. I want to go change the world. Okay. And I get it, right? It's like so clear. It totally makes sense. And so what that couple needs to do and is doing is understanding each other's core primal need and how to answer that question with a yes. And I'll just be like blunt. This is for them, like speaking 2 foreign languages. Like she's speaking Chinese and he's speaking English, and they're having to figure out that new language. But the more that you can do that, the stronger the relationship's going to be. The opposite is also true. The closer your number. So let's say we have 2 Q4s, am I wanted, who are in a marriage together. They are going to do a splendid job answering each other's primal question with a yes, right? Because again, you take your question and you put it over everybody else, and you're naturally attuning and naturally answering that question with a yes. And so you're both speaking English in that situation.
Are these the couples that are sickening to be around?
Well, it's a bit unfair. I got to tell you, it's a bit unfair. It's like, wow, that just works. But, listen, friendships, I find a lot of friendships that we're in are people who have similar primal questions as us.
Oh, that's true. That is true.
In leadership, here's another thing that I work with a lot of teams and leaders across the country. I always try to bring awareness to the fact that the primary leader or the senior leader will often put a leadership team around him with a similar primal question, because that team is answering the senior leader's primal question with a yes, and that feels really good.
Yeah,
and that feels really nice. But the problem is you're not getting the diversity of the primal gifts in that meeting. Okay. So like, let's say the leader's primal question is, am I successful? And he's got 5 people on his team that all have the am I successful question, or perhaps am I good enough, which is a variation. Again, the closer the question, the greater the affinity to each other. But he's only getting a success mindset. He's only getting people who think about success. He's not getting people who think about purpose. He's not getting people who think about safety. He's not thinking about people who think about love and being wanted, right? So you're missing out on those other perspectives and gifts that could actually make the team stronger, and whatever you're working on, whatever project or initiative, more robust in terms of the other gifts.
That's so good. Okay, so one of the rules of Enneagram when it came out was, don't assign somebody else a number. They have to discover it for themselves.
Yes.
If I go through this material, I even take the test, am I supposed to keep my mouth shut about somebody else's question? Or can I venture to say, I think this is your question?
Yeah. Here's what I'd say is that whether you declare it over them or not, let's say there's like an awareness, like, I think your primal question is, am I safe or am I loved? And you're seeing some things, you're seeing their scramble, you're seeing like what kind of things set them off. You're seeing perhaps their gift and how they attune to people through their primal gift. And you think it's their question. You could certainly declare it. Like if you have that kind of relationship, like, hey, I think you might be a Q3. Am I loved? Maybe take the test, or you could just sit down and talk. But I would say probably the more important thing is start figuring out ways to answer it with a yes. If you saw that question, am I loved? How might you answer that question with them? Am I loved, with a yes? And so, I don't think you have to tell them, but I think you could immediately start experimenting with the different ways of answering that with a yes, and also being very aware of how you might be answering that with a no.
Right.
Sometimes just oh my gosh, I could now totally see how me saying this or acting this way or this kind of communication style is unintentionally answering that person's question with a no. So I want to get better at that. And that's really the upgrade for all of us as leaders, as spouses, as friends. Once we better understand ourselves, Rusty, and we better understand each other or others through their primal question, we can instantly activate a new way of acting and communicating, and our intention towards things can change, and then everybody wins and everybody benefits.
Right. Oh, that's so good. Okay. Tell us where to get the test. Tell us how to find the book. I mean, I'm sure it's wherever books are sold, but I got mine on Amazon. What's the first step for everybody? To go to your website?
Yeah, I would encourage, if this has been interesting to you, if you want to learn how to be a better parent, you want to learn how to be a better leader, you want to understand your spouse in a clearer way, I'd encourage you, first step, go take the assessment at primalquestion.com. It takes you about 5 to 7 minutes to take it. You'll get your results. You'll get a little kind of synopsis and profile and some of the things that apply to you in terms of the results of that quiz. That would be a great place to start. So primalquestion.com to go take the assessment. And then secondarily, the book is available at amazon.com. And definitely, if just a deeper dive into many of the things that we've talked about today, and understanding the questions and understanding the implications of those questions in our lives and the people that we do life with.
That's awesome. Did I read right that you were on Good Morning America talking about your book?
Not this book, but many years ago, yes, I was on Good Morning America. But haven't quite made Good Morning America with Primal Question, but who knows? It might be hopefully in the future. So it's been so exciting, Rusty, to see.
That's awesome.
How people have found the book and how the book's impacting people all over. It's just my greatest joy hearing how people are like, oh my gosh, I see it now. I understand it now. And just making it a part of their life.
Well, it definitely is an aha kind of book. I found it to be very helpful and a great resource to give people. So I would encourage all of our listeners to pick it up. Mike, thank you for making time for us. I know you're a busy guy, and I'm just really grateful. And goodness, it's almost 9 a.m. where you are, so you're probably just waking up. So good for you, man. Thank you so much, buddy.
I've been up for a little while, but it's been such an honor to get to talk to you, Rusty. I'm so glad we got to do this, and thanks again for letting me share about something that I care deeply about.
Mike, thanks so much for being on the podcast. Really grateful for you sharing those questions with us. I know some authors come on the show and they only want to give us one or two, so you'll go buy the book. But I'm convinced that you're going to buy the book anyway, because the 7 were so beautifully put out there. You want to hear what all the scrambles are and what all the gifts are. So make sure you check that out and go to primalquestions.com specifically to find out more about that. Hey, if you haven't already subscribed to the podcast, make sure you do, because our stats tell us that 80% of our listeners have not, which means you have to go search for us every week. So make sure you hit subscribe. It'll come to wherever you get your podcasts. And that way you make sure you never miss an episode as we drop them. Speaking of that, we'll be back next week with brand new content. Have a great week. And as always, keep it simple.